HIPPOEVENT PODCAST. Let's talk about horses driving sport. Welcome to a new episode of the Drivingsport podcast by HIPPOEVENT.
Welcome to the HIPPOEVENT podcast. My name is Jacqueline Zimmermann and I'm really looking forward to having a very interesting conversation today. This is actually the first HIPPOEVENT podcast we are recording in English. And right at the start, I'd like to apologize for a few voice issues. Like so many others at the moment, I'm dealing with an annoying autumn cold. Let's grab a cup of tea and get started. Today, we are taking a trip across the Atlantic to welcome one of the biggest names in the international four-in-hand driving, Chester Weber. Chester is 22 times US four-in-hand champion, and in his incredible international career, he earned 1 gold, 6 silver and 2 bronze medals at FEI World Championships for four-in-hand. Servus! Hi, hello Chester. A very warm welcome to the HIPPOEVENT podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us and for sharing your insights and experience from your life in the driving sport.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Congratulations on becoming the US four-in-hand champion in Tryon 2025. You are US champion for the 22nd time. That's an incredible achievement. How has the sport of driving changed since the first national title back in 2002?
Unfortunately, the sport has really shrunk. In 2002, there were several competitors contesting for the national championships. When I won my first one, I certainly wasn't the favorite at the time. And certainly we have been able to be successful, but unfortunately, I was an uncontested title, which is somewhat unusual. But the reality is the four-in-hand sport in the United States has shrunken considerably, and we really don't see this magnitude of regular competitors anymore. And it seems like this year in Tryon there was really no support from the other drivers to show up. So I was really it was an uncontested title. I was by just showing up, I was the winner. So a lot has changed.
Horses have clearly played an important role in your family. Your mother is a successful racehorse breeder and your niece, Chloe, is very successful in the international show jumping. How did you personally find your way into the driving sport?
So I grew up with a family with thoroughbred racehorses. As a breed, they don't really lend themselves to being a breed that children can work easily with. At that time, my parents had some cold-blood draft horses, Clydesdale horses specifically. And I grew up sort of from my probably from 6 or 8 years old and driving horses. Then when I went, I wanted to continue to do horses through school when I went at the age 13 to high school. And of course, somebody said, "Oh, you drive horses? There's somebody close by here who does that." That was Jimmy Fairclough, who was one of my first instructors in combined driving. And I trained with him from when I was about 13 until I was 21. He introduced me to the sport of combined driving, and I soon realized that the sport of combined driving was equivalent of the Formula One of carriage sports, and the challenges associated with it were intriguing to me, and I haven't really looked back since then. I still have some connection to draft horses or cold blood horses. I don't compete with them, certainly as much as I did. I have a lot of friends and acquaintances from the draft horse world, and always continue to enjoy them.
When you are working with a young driving horse, what qualities are the most important for you? What do you look for during their early training?
Sure. So if I'm looking for a horse for myself, there are some size and color parameters that just sort of seem natural. I usually drive bay horses, and they're about 165 centimeters or so, 16:1 uh, hands tall. If I start with what I'm looking for, the first is likely the athleticism of the horse and its ability to, have nice exuberant gait. I would like the type to be nice. I want it to have the correct shoulder and a long neck, because the dressage is part of the fundamental program that is important to me. And then I would like to see that it also not only has a nice gait and gaits and a nice physical structure. I also, when I'm starting with one, I like to ask it questions to try to understand its character and understand if its character is. It's okay for me if they're a little bit tricky, because usually horses that are a little bit tricky have this wonderful will. We have a great word in English, spirit. They're spirited, and of course, to have a horse that's successful in the cross country, you need one that has will and a big spirit to work together with you. So I like to ask in the beginning some questions that may put them in a little bit of an uncomfortable situation, and just see how they react to that. And if they come to you looking for understanding and help with it, that usually represents good character. And the finally, after I've identified that, we do a quite a rigorous vet check with about 40 X-rays and then a clinical examination. And when I'm buying a younger horse, the youngest I buy is sort of 3.5 years old. When I'm buying younger horses, I really am very picky. I want that stuff to be perfect. And then when I buy older horses, perhaps that are already in the sport, I'm certainly more lenient.
You have been called the king of dressage and even hold the world record in the four-in-hand dressage phase with a score of 31.06 at the 2024 FEI World Championship in Szilvásvárad in Hungary. What, in your opinion, defines a truly great dressage test?
Well, I think that I think you have to look back at the Scala that I think actually came out of roots, the German training Scala. The fundamental basis of the German training Scala starts with rhythm. Of course, that's with energy and tempo. It's important that the horse is rhythmical in what it does, and I think that this is fundamental. The next piece is relaxation with elasticity. That's the horse's ability to be elastic in its step and in its body and supple. The next is the connection of the horse, the acceptance of its bit, and the acceptance of the different aids, the whip, and things like this. The next most important piece becomes impulsion, the increased energy and thrust. Then you have straightness, which is improved alignment and balance of the horse. And then the final sort of pinnacle of the Scala is collection, which is increased engagement and lightness engagement of the hind end, and then lightness of the front end of the horse, and then they get into self carriage. I think that personally, I feel like this is really critical and important. I've thought recently about writing another white paper about dressage judging, because I think that it's important that we continue to remind ourselves of what is correct. And I think if we look back, and we don't talk about dressage, driven dressage as an example, but without people feeling like somebody's offering self-serving advice. I think it's very important to look at the ridden dressage sport and the changes there. I think as we look at the welfare of the horse, we used to reward a horse perhaps with some more tension. And of course, you can have tension which is positive tension, which leads to the impulsion of the horse. But if you're missing the fundamentals of the scale, which start with rhythm and relaxation, it's if you see it as a set of stairs that you have to walk on, you can't skip one of the steps. So you need to start with rhythm. Then you can start talking about relaxation, the horse's ability to stretch, connection, impulsion, straightness, and then collection. What I'm seeing, what I've seen when I look at the ridden dressage sport, if I look at Totilas, who was super successful in the year of 2010, that was a horse with a lot of tension. I'm not saying that the horse made technical faults in the halt or something like that, but this was a horse that went in a very mechanical way. And I think what the judges have realized is a horse like that maybe misses some of these fundamentals of relaxation and rhythm. And what I've seen happen in the ridden dressage sport is they've really gone away from that. I think that if Totilas was at the last Olympic Games, he wouldn't have been in the first 10 because they're looking for a softer horse with more suppleness. And to tie that to driving, I think what I was able to, I think what what came together in Szilvásvárad was not luck. It was a lot of work and preparation from my team and the horses. But I think you saw this softness, this suppleness, this bending, but you also had this very expressive movement. And I think that that's what they want to see today. Um, I have some concerns when I watch some of the judges judging of the last years that we have to be very careful, very mindful as a sport, that we don't forget where the training scala starts. Uh, because if we forget those fundamentals and we say that only collection, for example, is important and straightness is important and impulsion is important, but we forget that rhythm and relaxation are fundamental building blocks, and without those, it doesn't matter how much collection you have. So that's where I am. I really enjoy bringing along young horses, teaching them to be soft over the back line, to get the bending perfect and right. Um, it takes a lot of work to get there, but once you do get there, it can represent harmony in motion.
I think all your horses are also trained and educated under the saddle.
In the moment, all but one. I have one marathon leader that joined my team in the spring, and that one is not under saddle yet. But I think that it's critical that these horses are able to cross train. I learned years ago from a dear friend, Ludger Beerbaum. He said, horses need to really come out of the stable 3 times a day. For me, that's their normal work. They need to do some other elastic or gymnastic work um, in addition to that, and then they need to spend some time allowed to be a horse in the paddock or in the field. Um, so I live by those things. My horses typically do 3 things. They work 6 days a week. But when we start getting away from the relaxation of the horse and the basic fundamentals of the scala, I know that we're on the wrong way, and I try to back up, because I think unless you've stepped and created the fundamental foundation with each step, you have no need to move on to the next one.
In mid-September, you published an open letter to the FEI driving committee, to organizers, and to the worldwide driving community. Your message has an enormous impact, and many drivers and fans encode your contents. Could you summarize for our listeners what you wanted to express in this letter?
Sure. I think that the first thing that I wanted to express was it's our responsibility as drivers. I felt compelled and an opportunity, because I'm not a European, to comment on the results of the European Championships. This was not the voice of somebody trying to dictate the sport. This was merely somebody trying to offer their personal opinion about what they witnessed. Um, because I feel like when I'm competing myself, I may have similar thoughts, but I would never want to make such a statement where somebody says, "Oh, you're offering comments that potentially could be self-serving." I'm not a European. I was not contesting the European Championships, so I felt like I was in a unique position to be able to say something that had nothing to do with me. I also do a lot of leadership training as something I do outside of horses. And I think leadership at its heart is responsibility. And that responsibility I see as somebody who's been in the sport since my early teens, for 35+ years, has the responsibility to talk about stewardship of the sport and protecting the essence of what has been entrusted to us. Um, I think that combined driving is not just a competition; it's really it's a thing of beauty. It's about tradition. It's about harmony of horses and drivers, across these three different phases. Um, the letter focuses on the cones phase, and when I witnessed that, and I saw what I've seen several times. I've seen at other championships that have also gone on this year. Is I see that the view of the course designer um, may be different than what is in the best interest of our sport. Um, and that's why I offered the question in an open format to the driving committee to say, hey, we should think about what our sport wants and wants to be um, like going forward. Because I'm of the opinion that at times, if we don't think about what we are hoping for or wanting in the future, we will erode the very fabric of the sport that we've all come to love. Um, as I explained, leadership is about influence. So this is just about my voice, and I know sometimes the loudest voice wins. But I tried to put something together in an eloquent way. There was no attack of anybody, the officials that were there or at any other championships. It was merely to provoke thought from the leadership of our um, organization. In this letter, I say that I think it took many different people of influence to shape our sport, and we should let no single person, man or woman, shape the sport uh, themselves. I think that would be a mistake. Um, but I see in recent years individuals find themselves in powerful positions where they are able to shape the sport to the direction that they feel the sport should go. Um, and for me, yes, I think that the cones phase is important, but I think we have to be very careful if we start to design courses, both with the technical nature of the course and the time allowed, that are not for anybody to be able to do successfully with a clear round, then I believe the pendulum has swung too far, um, the wrong way, and we lack that balance. Um, in my personal opinion, as I indicated in my letter, I thought that the benchmark for course designers should be to try to have 10% clear. I think that's for the spectator interesting. I think it shows that there is a balance to it. Those thoughts don't come from me single-handedly. They come from lessons I've learned from organizing a show jumping show, and under the influence of Leopoldo Palastios, who was a vice president in the FEI and has been instrumental in uh, course designing at many Olympic Games and always does the Masters in Spruce Meadows. Um, what I learned is if you can have about 10% clear, it's still exciting for the spectator to watch. And it's quite simple. If you have 30 drivers, you should have 3 clear rounds. If you have 35, well, maybe you should have 3 clear rounds and a couple with a time penalty or two. I think that creating a benchmark there will also help the course designers, because it will allow them to have a benchmark of what success looks like. But right now, we may have many different course designers who all have their own independent thoughts of the way the sport should be. Well, then our sport misses consistency, and I don't think that that's right. Um, the One of the unique and interesting things was, after I wrote this letter, talking about trying to make our sport more palatable, and specifically about the cones phase, and trying to get to this 10% number, there was a comment about the pony championships in Harastupan, and where they had most, I think they had 50% of the entries in the four in hand class were clear. And people said, well, is that what you want? Do you think that that's right? And I said, no, of course not. I think 10% is 10%. And if you're one too many or one too little, well, of course, that's how. Uh, but our course designers, I believe, need a benchmark. We need to know what we want to achieve in order to achieve it. If not, it becomes happenstance and just the influence of one person. Um, the next part of the letter goes on to talk about making our sport, uh, bringing it back to its glory days when it was flourishing. Don't forget, there was a time that driving had considerably more sponsorship and funds around it than the show jumping sport. Um, and they had venues like Ascot and Apeldoorn and Stockholm with thousands of spectators to watch the four in hand sport. But the sport was very different. People were also focused on things that personally I never, through my youth, never understood as really why that was important. When men and women got dressed up and focused on hats and the quality of the turnout and the how clean the harness was and things like that. And I'm not sure the way it was before when we had standing presentation is what we should get back to. But I do think spectators somehow liked that, and they appreciated that beauty and grace and elegance. So I think we should think a little bit about this. I think sometimes I see it as a little bit disgusting. I watch people prepare for the cones, and they have plastic harness, and they're wearing blue jeans, and I'm thinking, where's the class gone in our sport? Uh, and sure, it's just my opinion, but I wonder if some of the spectators who came out to watch it were really interested in the presentation and the polish and the sense that they were watching something that was beautiful and refined, yet Saturday was very thrilling. Um, I also think that we have to be very mindful. We have to create a sport that is accessible to people. I'm not talking about an elitist sport. I'm talking about a sport that is accessible to the amateur. And the reality is, we do have some professionals who live from the sport, but many of them are, they may have sponsors, but many of their sports are not really cash flow from a. I own businesses as well. Many of them are not really in the black if you take the support of their family away, who are just doing it out of passion. So, yes, you can say they have sponsors, but I don't know if mom or dad or, are footing the bill and they have a job making money doing something else. I don't know. Is that really a commercial nature of the sport? I don't know. If I look at the show jumping world and I think about the greats of somebody like Ben Mayer, I don't think his parents are pumping money into his career when he's in the top 5 of the world rankings. I think he has true support and sponsorship. So I think we should just be careful that we're not creating a sport for the best 5 or best 10 in the world, but we should create a sport that is challenging for everybody, but everybody can do it. Because I still think if you make the dressage test, for example, 15-20% easier, if you make the marathon a little bit easier, if you make the cones a little bit easier, you're still going to have a winner, and it's still going to be the best driver. But I think we have to really be mindful that we don't create something that is so focused on a sport that's focused on the best 10 in the world or the best 15 in the world. And that's the direction I see us going. And I'm not sure that that's going to help us grow the sport. And I think, frankly, if we're trying to create a place for the professionals to be able to succeed in their careers, they're going to need to have customers. So, in order to have customers, they're going to need to have a sport that's accessible to those customers. And I think that we can look to sports like show jumping and see that that has worked very well.
Did you get an answer or a statement from the driving committee for your letter?
I have not. I've heard from some of the driving committee members. They've asked some questions. All of them. It seems like the letter was incredibly well received. I would say of something like 100 comments on social media and something like that. I can think of maybe 2% of them that were sort of negative. And I think, there are many drivers who have kind of looked at this and said, wow, it's great that somebody dares say it. And as I said, I chose to say it in a time where I wasn't talking about something that was going to impact me personally, because I'm not a European. I think it's the winner was a great winner. That was fine. I just think that we should be very mindful creating a sport that is for such a small group.
Yes, I can tell you that more than 60,000 people saw the letter and read the letter on HIPPOEVENT, and also we got a lot of feedback on these words.
What would you say? I guess you and I have never discussed this, so it's sort of fun. Would you say that the letter was 90% well received, or 80% well received, or do you have some kind of objective criteria of how well received it was?
I got a lot of emails from the letter on HIPPOEVENT. I have to tell you, 100% were positive on the letter and from the feedback. And I'm always checking the comments on Facebook. And I think I had only one, but it was not really negative, but it was a question if it's now the right time to speak about it. It was during the competition season. So I can say that we had nearly 100% positive comments and feedback. So I think many in that sport agree. Many people in the driving sport agree with this letter. In your view, what should be the next steps to make changes in reality?
I'm really hoping that the driving committee will take this voice and think about it. I was slightly disappointed that the organization that is represented on the driving committee, the drivers organization, um, which I sent the letter to many of the board members, and they had a discussion in Haras Tupan. I was disappointed that it wasn't discussed or mentioned or decided it should be supported or not supported or have a neutral stance. But I think that the letter got the attention of the driving committee, and I think it was effective because it was no attack of anybody. That wasn't the intention of it either. It was merely to say, here's where we are today as a sport. Where do we want to go? And if we don't see the vision of where we want to go, we have to be careful because maybe the loudest in the room will send us in a direction that's not in the best interest of the sport.
How do you see the future of driving successfully in the years ahead?
I'm concerned that I am one of the last of the generation of the four-in-hand drivers. I don't see a lot of people jumping into four-in-hand driving. The venues become smaller and smaller. We used to have venues in big city parks and things like that, and now our venues are in small villages and towns. And that concerns me because I think to be successful, we have to bring the sport to the people and not the people to the sport. With that said, I will applaud the Indoor World Cup. I think it has done a fantastic job at presenting our sport to the masses where the masses live. So, fantastic job. The one challenge I see with the Indoor World Cup is the finances of it for the elite drivers just simply doesn't make sense. If you take the competitions, the Stuttgarts, the London, where they're selling a ticket just to watch the driving, they are truly they're selling the tickets out. You can take the ticket price 9 times the occupancy of the seats and realize, wow, they're making good money with this. The prize money of the driving in the World Cup is really laughable and frankly hasn't changed much in 20 years. And I think until the drivers stand together and say, hold on, the cost of living has gone up in 20 years drastically. People used to be able to go to an indoor show, in the likes of the time when Michael Freund and co started the Indoor World Cup, that he could have a profitable weekend. Now, if you look at the greats of indoor, Brahm and Boyd, I'm not sure when they go off for a weekend and they take the cost of leaving their business behind. And I'm not sure there's a lot of profit left over. I know when I was trying to do it, trying to fly back and forth from the United States and have a team running in Europe, it was just, there was no way to make it make any financial sense. And I think if we look at what's happened over the last years in show jumping with prize money, they too fill the seats, but they have been much better at being organized as a group and mandating that the prize money is fair. And frankly, I don't blame the organizers. If we bring the show for a discounted price or for little to no money, well, why should they? Why should they pay us more? Um, I think that that's a place where the FEI needs to start saying, "Hold on, we're giving the show away." And we're also being asked to do things that are having competitions at 11 o'clock at night, which I beg the question, is that in the best interest of horses and their own rhythm? Is that horse friendly to be the latest show in the night? But I don't know. I think the drivers need to look at that and think about that. I think even wonderful shows like Aachen, one of my favorite shows of the year, you know, in the last 15 years, prize money in Aachen has not changed hardly at all. Whereas the Grand Prix of Aachen prize money has doubled many times. So I think that's something that we really need to, as a sport, have a united voice and a united front, and the drivers need to stop giving away their show um, at the high end. I think that they need to say, no, we need to get paid this money, and they might need to actually um, figure out a way to do some less shows so that the organizers wake up and say, hold on a second, we have to pay these people. They're not coming with one horse, they're coming with 5 horses and several grooms. It's very expensive.
The Driving Indoor World Cup is the only FEI World Cup series that never had a title sponsor. Would that be a solution?
I think that's correct. But my question is, where it's about priorities, right? When the FEI, let's use an old, and I don't want to be critical of the FEI. I know everybody who works there does the best to create fair sport, but are they really in the sponsorship industry, or are they in the rules making and governance industry? I think the FEI is a rules making governing organization, and I'm not saying they're inept at finding wonderful sponsors, but I'm not sure that driving is a high priority sport. And I think when they find sponsors to jump in, I'm not sure that, but maybe driving is of no interest. But it seems like to me, when I look at viewership of driving and I look at the stands and watch driving, it seems to be very popular. So I don't know why or how, but I think driving people and drivers um, need to mandate that. And I think that if it's necessary to find a sponsor, they'll figure out a way to find a sponsor.
In addition to your career as a four-in-hand driver, you are also a very successful event organizer. Together with your niece, Chloe, you run Live Oak International. Beyond providing top conditions for horses and athletes, what do you see as your core mission and responsibility as an organizer, expectedly toward the sport of driving?
I think the Live Oak International has become, it's the only show jumping and driving event in North America. And it's really become a mecca for horse sport. In Ocala, the 4th largest horse community in the world. We get large spectator groups and crowds. Those have been grown in an organic way. A lot of the model I've have come from Chloe and I learning from going to European shows and boutique shows in Europe to learn how they do it. And our focus there is that the athlete, the competitor, is creating sport, and the spectator and the sponsor is our customer. Whereas I think what we have to be very careful for in the driving world in general is most places I go, it seems like the competitor is the customer for the organizer and not the spectator and the sponsor. And this is a very dangerous place when, and I think that you see that. You see now we have many competitors show up at the Pair World Championships and they take basically almost anybody from any nation can go. And the only reason they want that is because the organizer wants the entry fee. Well, then it's like, is this really a championship? Is this really special to qualify for, to get to go to, when anybody can go? It's just if you pay the entry fee. So yes, it's fair in a certain light. Yes, I like that. But I think that we have to be very mindful that we're not trying to be everything to everybody. We try at Live Oak to be a tournament of sport. We don't call it a horse show, we call it a tournament. It's about sport, horses and horsemanship. We come from many generations of horses and horsemanship in my family, from my mother to my generation and myself, to my niece, now Chloe, who is my co-president in the event. But we see organizing that event as a year-long project. It has nearly $1 million budget for the event. And we have, over the past 35 years of organizing it, been able to continue to adapt and grow the event. And we're really proud of it. Um, and I think in terms of the driving sport, we've become a pinnacle when people can't maybe afford to go to Europe to compete on the international stage. They get that same feeling when they're at Live Oak. And I think that we've also tried recently with the addition of the youth group. We have 20% of our competitors are children or youth, to try to bring people into the sport, because we realize that kids want also a little bit of the spotlight. And that may be a way for us to help be good stewards of the sport and bring some people into the sport who share our passion for horses and horse sport.
You had a very special participant at Live Oak International this year, someone who, let's say, brought a truly unique spirit to the driving sport and inspired fans all around the world. The 7-year-old Mildred with her pony Jemmy.
Yeah, what a fantastic story! I saw her again in Tryon. What a wonderful family. You know, this girl, I see. Look back at what she does, and I think, wow, I can't wait till she's in her teens and driving ponies. And she's the reality is, people start riding at a very young age with visions of maybe ending up in Aachen someday. And I love seeing somebody like her. And of course, the spectators, our crowds, love to see surely the elite sport, the Taylor Bradishes of the world, and the people like that who when they're driving single, go on to be super competitive in the marathon. Surely they like seeing that top sport, but they also enjoy seeing tomorrow's star, and young kids who come on and make their mark on the sport.
So you are part of the Team Mildred fan club too, just like we are.
Yes.
Let's talk about driving, media, and sponsors. How do you see that relationship today? It's working as it should, or it's still room for improvement?
I think anything. I think anything and everything in life, there's always room for improvement with. Um, I think that the World Wide Web and Instagram and Facebook, social media, TikTok, have helped uh, put driving sport that maybe couldn't afford historically TV coverage to be successful. And people now, but the people now have a choice of different forms of entertainment. We also have to compete with all those other forms, and so that makes can make it a little bit trickier, challenging. But I've seen my own personal social media grow. We have I don't know, in the Facebook, I think 50, 60,000 followers, and they're around 10,000 on Instagram. What I my personal view is, I think that has a little bit to do with the demographic. Um, Facebook is aligned more at a little bit older folks than the Instagram that may target more sort of younger people. But people love driving. They love this beauty. They love harmony. They love to watch it. And what's very interesting to me, whether it's the U.S. Equestrian Federation or Ariat, who is a sponsor of mine, when they use a driving image, people may have nothing to do with driving, but they're fixated with driving and its complexity and its beauty, its harmony, and its grace. um, so we have a responsibility as a sport to make sure we put out there these beautiful images. And maybe some of them people don't understand. They say, well, why would people like that? But people love to see women in beautiful hats. Um, People love to see elegant things. And driving is an elegant sport. We just have to be a little bit mindful of how we steward that, because the world is still watching.
You are a father of two sons. Do you hope that they will discover a love of equestrian sport as well? And if so, do you see them going into jumping, dressage, or driving?
Good question. I hope that they follow their own passions. I've been passionate since I was a small child about horses and horse sport. At at a young age, I wanted to be a jockey, and I think at 12 or 13, the 52 kilos or 117 pounds or whatever it is passed me by. So there was no chance to be small enough to be a competitive jockey. I hope they do what they're passionate about. And for sure, if they wanted to be involved in carriage driving and driving, I would love to support them. I love it when they come to the shows. One of my favorite memories is 2 years ago, we went to the test event in Szilvásvárad. The boys came with me. We stayed in the truck together. The town seemed safe enough that they could go and explore a little bit themselves, and go to the pizza restaurant and figure out how to get a pizza, and all the while not speaking Hungarian. And I love that. And I think that the community of driving is also um, such a unique, wonderful thing. Where I feel like if my boys are around a driving camp, I always know that somebody has their eye open, and if something wrong is going to happen, they'll likely step in, because the community is so good. But as for if they're going to drive someday, well, I give them the opportunity to drive whenever they want. But right at this stage, they seem more interested in doing night check in the barn, because it's a little bit past their bedtime, and that's a good excuse to stay up a little later than they do holding the reins. But I'm not going to be pushy with them, and if they get there, I think it's not also unusual. Uh, Boys typically get involved in horse sport a little later in life than young girls. Um, so we'll see what the future holds and what the good Lord's plan is. But I'll support them in whatever they do. This past weekend, I was at an auditorium at a swim meet where they both competed. Currently, they compete in swimming, which I think is a wonderful sport. And Uh, that's currently what they're up to. But I do. It would be nice if they were involved in horse sport because I could help them. But I also know the challenges as we educate many soldiers here from the U.S. Army. Um, they're teaching students is challenging. Teaching my two sons may be very challenging for me. We'll see what their plan is for the future. But right now, they like the horse truck, they like night check, and they like being around the horses, but don't seem that interested in the driving themselves.
What are your current driving activities and what are your goals for the 2026 season?
Right now, we're bringing on a couple new horses into the team. We're constantly in the market looking for tomorrow's future star. Aachen is so much history in horse sport, and such an honor always to compete there. So I'm excited to go to Aachen or back to Aachen, and I think that it's going to be so nice to have a World Equestrian game with all the disciplines back together. I think that that's going to be really a wonderful thing for driving again. And I think it will help remind the FEI why driving is a sport they govern. And I think not only the FEI, but it will also help driving have a little bit more influence in their national federations. I think when driving separated itself from the World Equestrian Games in other disciplines, we never got sort of the boost from that kind of games feeling.
Chester, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and for sharing your great insights and experience from your life in the driving sport. And now we would like to get a little bit better with your Hippo event word rep. Quick questions, quick answers. Ready?
Sure. Yeah.
Burger or bratwurst?
Bratwurst.
Bucket list. What is still on your driving bucket list?
Individual gold medal.
What's your go-to breakfast on marathon day?
Steak and eggs.
In the morning?
That's breakfast.
Okay. Favorite discipline?
Depends on the horses that are in front of me, but with the current team I have, I think that's the best dressage team in the world. So it's fun to work with them.
3 words to come to mind when you think of the word team.
I always say teamwork makes the dream work.
A free Sunday. Gym or couch?
Gym.
Thank you so much, Chester. It has been a real pleasure talking with you, and we wish you all the very best for the months ahead. And we are already looking forward to seeing you to compete again in Europe next year, and special during the World Championship in Aachen. Thank you, Chester.
Thank you so much. Alrighty. Thank you, Jacqueline.
That was the HIPPOEVENT podcast with Chester Weber. Time really flew by doing this fascinating conversation. Do you have any thoughts or comments about our talk? We would love to hear from you. Write to us. Hear you soon. Next week there will be another HIPPOEVENT podcast, and I'm already looking forward to a great conversation about horses and driving. Hopefully with a better voice next time. Greetings from Austria to our wonderful driving community. Servus.
That's it for this episode of the Hippo Event Podcast, the Driving Sport podcast, bringing you lots of information about horses and driving sport in upcoming episodes. Whether chatting with well-known drivers on the carriage, speaking with experts, or sharing the latest backstage news from our speedy reporter Hippo Happy, you'll always stay up to date with hippoevent.at. If you don't want to miss a new episode and want to stay well informed about everything happening in the world of driving sport, visit our online magazine at www.hippoevent.at. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook and subscribe to the Hippo Event Podcast because we love driving sport.